Recording in progress.
Hey everyone, it's Leanne, and this is our second class in our Intuition and Consciousness course. I'm going to begin by discussing more the concept of consciousness because it's very expansive, and science hasn't even gotten its mind around what consciousness is, and it continues to evolve and it continues to develop as we learn more maybe about the brain or the nature of existence. And those answers aren't really out there scientifically as we would think, or as we think of science. And so consciousness, since it is so much more than just being the awareness of self and surroundings, that perhaps, and I'm just going to ask this in like question form, perhaps consciousness also refers to the you that is you before you were the you. And so this came up in an interview that I did on a podcast on Friday, and the concept just came in through me that, and I've heard this before, and that moment came in, and I am not Leanne and you are not you, but we are the ones having the experience of being that. And I know you probably have heard me say that before. So that who is that observer? Who is the one that is being the observer? There is some observing that goes on that is creating our reality. And if we think about consciousness in that way, then we can look at how we show up in the world and the energy we bring to things and make some conscious decisions and choices at any given day or at any given moment to foster the energy that we are wanting. Maybe it's peace. So in a moment of feeling not peaceful, maybe it's anxious, or maybe the feeling of grief or anger or upset, whatever it happens to be, or maybe even joy, that if we take those moments to observe it and guide ourselves with that presence that is the us that was us before we were us into that moment, then we can guide ourselves into more peace if we are choosing that. Or we can have a moment of standing up for ourselves in some way if we are needing that. But if we are noticing that an emotions are getting away from us, say anxiety, or a triggered moment with emotions in any way, that we can then learn over time to foster the emotions and the energy that are more in alignment to what we are wanting to have, right? We can gear it that way if we become more of that observer. There is literally something called the observer effect, and it isn't exactly the idea of being able to consciously or with our awareness focus on more of what we want to be or the energy we want to bring to something. But let me bring up the observer effect here. And from the standpoint of how it interplays with consciousness, and the observer effect in the context of consciousness refers to the idea that the act of observation can influence the phenomenon being observed. So maybe that's ourselves and our emotional state in any given moment. And I think we can all look back on hindsight and say, wow, the train left the station and it was the anger train with me. Or, whether I'm in traffic and somebody cuts me off or whatever it happens to be, right? So if the observer effect means something different, and what quantum mechanics tells us is that the observing of that any phenomenon, but a particle and or a wave, it changes it. The observation of something changes the something, and just by the ability for it to be observed. And so things behave differently when they are observed. And think about even just our own lives and how when we know we're amongst other company, how we might change our demeanor or our behavior or our energy, right? Like if I'm amongst people that have a higher degree of knowledge or understanding of something, and I walk in to learn, I'm going to have a different observational standpoint than if I'm the one teaching. You see there? And so we can look at this when quantum mechanics is talking about it. They might be talking about it in a different way, but we can apply it. And so it says that the observer effect suggests that particles or systems behave differently when they are observed. And so can we, I'm just asking, or can you, or can we then have a positive impact on any given situation in our life or any given moment? It is our, our great teachers of spirituality that will say that it is not, circumstances don't matter. It is our state of being that matters. And so if your state of being matters and you are triggered into a moment, whether that means anxiety or anger or whatever emotion it is, if you have the wherewithal and you practice within you your intuition, there will be a connecting to being in that observable moment so that you can be more authentically you and not be swayed by circumstance. It doesn't matter if we're talking on a global scale, say politics, or on the microcosm, the interplay that we have with our relatives, family, and our relationships. So let's just boil it down to the observer effect as it relates to consciousness highlights the potential interaction between awareness and the phenomenon it perceives, and the idea that consciousness might have a more active role in shaping or determining reality than previously understood. However, it's still a speculative area of inquiry without definitive answers, as it blends concepts from quantum mechanics, neuroscience, and philosophy. And so if we're being that observer, let's make it our mission to put that into practice so we align with peace. And having peace and clarity in any given moment, regardless of the situation, allows for our intuition and for our guidance to lead the way. And what better time for our guidance to lead the way than when we are in some kind of a stress or distress kinds of moments. So that segues me right into the principles that we talked about last week. And we talked about the first two principles, the Hermetic principles, and there's 7 altogether. The first one that we discussed last class was the principle of mentalism, that everything's mental or comes from brain or consciousness, and your focus is your superpower. So where you put your focus or where your focus leads you can be a superpower, or it can cause you a lot of great distress. We also talked about the principle of correspondence, as above, so below, as below, so above, as without, so within. And we'll start this one off today as the third principle is vibration. Some people refer to it as the law of vibration. And it's kind of interwoven and entangled into our society and our concept. Maybe the zygote would be a proper term for that, with the idea of manifesting or the law of attraction, but they're different. You get where you're vibrating. And so bringing up the observer and the ability to be the observer sounds like it would do us a lot of favors to be participating in the observable moments, even from hindsight. So the law of vibration says that nothing rests, everything moves and vibrates. Now remember, these principles are from ancient Egypt and Greece. And if they go back that far and they knew that, and science is aware of that now, we can use this principle to our benefit when we bring some attention and thought to it. And these are all going places, guys. The idea of why I'm saying attention and thought to things, and why I'm bringing up consciousness in a different way, and why we're talking about these principles, because as we grow in depth of understanding with them and we apply them, then we are offering ourselves peace. And when peace comes from both within and without, we navigate through life's challenges guided and with our intuition leading the way, and with our connection to source being primary. And so if everything moves and vibrates, then everything in the universe is in constant motion and has a frequency. And you know this, that we all have a frequency. We even use the language as I vibe with that person, or I don't vibe with them, right? We think about like even the colors that are around you or what you wear, what colors are you vibing with? And we think of it as likes and dislikes to one degree or another, but in a quantum, maybe physics kind of way, it is really that vibrational energy, even that color brings, that attracts us, law of attraction, or perhaps repels us. So that law of vibration, and so if you put some thought to it this week, and the next several weeks or for however long, into what you vibe with and don't vibe with, then you can remove some labels that this is good and this is bad. I don't vibe with that politician. I vibe this way. And focusing more on what you do vibe with and less attention to perhaps no attention on what you don't vibe with obviously moves you in more of a state of feeling at peace. Maybe even like the idea of homeostasis, that you feel balanced out and grounded. Focusing a lot on what you don't like or what you don't vibe with, or that's not within a frequency that is satisfying to you, detracts you from center. Focusing on what you don't like invites more of it in because the universe is always just saying yes. So let's think about what the application could be for the principle of vibration. Is pay attention to the energy around you and how does it feel. You can label it if you like. That this is my vibe. When you're somewhere, even the song. Some of you are probably there like, girl, no, that's not my vibe for the song. Or you listened to the song and you felt it like that and the words reached to you. They vibed with you. You elevate your vibration by engaging in activities that lift your mood. We talk about lifting our vibration or aligning your vibration with the things that you are wanting. It's all about frequency and vibration. Spending time with positive people are people that you feel are positive, right? Practicing gratitude or engaging in creative pursuits. Doesn't matter if it's gardening, painting, cooking, cleaning, organizing, decorate, whatever is floats your boat will shift your vibration. Even if you do something that shifts your vibration that you enjoy doing, even if something is not that what you are doing, say you love painting and that raises your vibe. Let's just use music, because for me, listening to music and vibing with music, I get into a state of a vibration, and other things that I am wanting have the ability to reach me easier, even if I'm not thinking about that. Whether we're talking about it's a place to live or a relationship or more money coming or whatever it is. Anytime you are in an elevated spot, it helps you to be able to shift. It helps you to shift towards getting more of all of the things that you are wanting. There has to be some attention given to, do I feel worthy of that? Is that for me? That'll never happen for me, kind of thing can get in the way of that elevated energy, then allowing for that which you are wanting to do further, get closer even. So you want to minimize your exposure to negative energy, whatever that means to you. It's different for different people, whether through toxic environments or individuals, without needing to label them as, say, toxic. You just know that it's not your vibe, and the more you think and bring your awareness in that direction as opposing to labeling things, but sometimes we got to start where we are, right? I just know that that's toxic. I just know that that doesn't feel right to me, and trust it, because why? That is part of your intuition being developed. and your energy allowing for your intuition to grow. It's like building a muscle. So when you trust how you feel about the vibes, and you lean in the direction of your trust, this is for me, not for me, whatever it is, then there is a growth with your intuition. It is a byproduct of it. Okay, that's the principle of vibration. And the principle of polarity is next. This is one of my favorites. It's sometimes hard for me to get it across how I see it, so let's wish me luck. Everything is dual, and everything has poles. Everything is on how you see things. I like this, I don't like this. It's on the same thing. It's on the same stick, if you will. So whatever it is that you dislike, you are on that frequency and vibration with what you dislike. So that's why giving less attention to it becomes your superpower, or where we focus. We may need to become aware of what we don't like in the contrast of the polarity of something for us to get clarity on it, to know where we should be focusing or want to focus, or what focus would benefit us. So everything in the universe has its opposite. Light and dark, hot and cold, good and evil. These opposites are actually two extremes of the same thing. I don't want to get in the argument, so just like if it doesn't resonate with you what I'm saying, that they're the same thing, then you can throw it out. But just hang with me here for a bit as we try to put some of these things into application. So recognize that challenges or difficulties are not inherently bad. They just are. They're the other side. They're the other side of success, growth, or peace. When you face adversity, these are my notes, right? I'm a teacher always. When you face adversity, look for the lesson within it and understand that it can lead to transformation, widening of perception, expansion of your energy. It can lead to a greater depth of connection to spirit, to your soul, to other people. Use the awareness to find balance and choose your responses consciously. And so if I'm aware that I'm going through a hard time and I don't enjoy it, I don't like it, maybe it's a health issue, right? And I know that I don't enjoy this health issue, and I'm focused there. On the other side of that issue, or the other pole to that, is health, right? So it would benefit me to focus on health in some way, or what I can do to support health. Instead of labeling not being healthy, or say being sick, or whatever term, as a bad thing, then we are missing something that brings us further into peace. And so it could be that the health situation is helping me to be more compassionate to other people that have my same issue or concern. Or that this time for me can be a time of slowing down, getting more rest, letting my to-do list go. And so we can think of things as good or bad. And so it's difficult to get our minds around the idea of abuse, especially child abuse. But there's a story I heard, and this man was helping another man through his trauma of being severely abused as a child. His mother died very young, and his dad was extremely abusive, alcoholic, beat him to many ends, made him go without food. And this was until he could get out of the house at 14. And so anybody that wants to leave their home at 14 has not been in a good situation, right? So we can all agree. And we're not saying that this father at any point in time coming up when I share this is a good guy, or that he shouldn't be held responsible for his bad behavior, dark, whatever you want to, titles, labels you want to put on his behavior. But this young boy from a very early age would withdraw within things, and because he had, school paper and things like that, started to just draw and did artistry, doodling, design kinds of stuff, worked with color and shading, and became a very famous Disney artist. This young boy grew up to be a Disney artist and was very well known for it, but he was very angry at his upbringing and his father and his evil father and his bad father and all these things that happened to him. But what the man that was helping him got him to see that perhaps all of these things happened and he allowed himself to build something good from it. Does that mean his father gets credit for doing terrible things to him, that he gets credit for helping him become this amazing artist? Well, if we can perceive a slice that he played a part in that, doesn't let him off the hook for being, doing terrible things, but he could soften the anger that he had towards his father and in some ways the world, that no one ever really rescued him kind of thing. Soften it to see that something really good came of it, and he wasn't that little boy anymore. He wasn't ever going to allow his father to hurt him or do anything to him going forward. So does it change that he was a very, I just want to say the word bad man, but I'm trying not to use labels. But perhaps he was a very bad man doing very bad things, but it didn't mean that young boy who grew up to be a man and then a famous artist had to stay being that abused child. It doesn't take away what happened to him, and it also means something good came out of his life. His childhood wasn't just a waste of time because he had grown those skills and those talents. So either side of the pole, would he have become that famous artist if his father wasn't who he was? We don't know. And we don't mean to say that to give him a pass from being responsible for his actions, because we're going to look at the benefits everywhere and anywhere that we can when we're growing our intuition, and that side of us that can emerge with a wider perception and a expanded consciousness. It offers peace wherever it can. Some people might think of it as that God sprinkles love everywhere that God goes. Creative source energy is only creative source, and it is not concerned with the good or the bad of things, but with the isness of things, the things that is. What is. So when you're homework would be to share one of these. Like last week, we had to share with somebody a principle and talk about it. Now, it doesn't matter if you talk about it with a coworker, a spouse, child of yours, your dog, a plant in the house. It doesn't matter where you talk about it. Pick one to talk about, a principle, and work with it, or both. You can take as much time as you want in your day to work with the principles and to see how you can apply them, and then see how it feels and which of these principles come easy to you to understand, and which might have more difficulty. And think of that too as there are layers to it, to the depth of understanding. So as our consciousness shifts and our perceptions widen, our ability to understand things from more perspectives becomes available. All right, I'm going to move right into the, what a segue, right? Right into the hemispheres of the brain. And this does, trust the process, everyone. This does lead to some things here. And I want to screen share while I'm doing this. I think that's there. I hope you all can see it. A thumbs up if you can see the image in the center of your screen, so I can see someone. Thank you. Okay. So you can see this is a very simple picture of the brain, and the left and the right hemispheres, and then the aspects, characteristics perhaps from the left and the right side. And we can see on the left side the analysis, logic, ideas, facts, math, these things are on our left side, and the right side is creativity, intuition, arts, creation, feeling, imagination there. Interestingly enough, that it really, our intuition can be channeled in through the imagination side of our brain. And so therefore, when we're little kids, ever hear people say that somebody has an imaginary friend? And we kind of all probably suspect here in this class that that's really a spirit guide. You know, it's imaginary, and what's imaginary to one person then can become reality to them, or perhaps we want to leave space for ourselves as we're growing with intuition. The idea of imagination being very real and opportunities. But we need both sides of the brain when we're growing intuition. We don't want to be out of ideas or logic or things like that. In my notes here, I have that the left side of our brain also relates to language and speech. We need that when we're growing our intuition to one degree or another as it continues to expand, right? Logical thinking doesn't need to go out the window because we're using intuition. And sequential processing, or being able to understand some of the senses or where our intuition is kicking into play, comes from through our that kind of sequential processing. And the right side, creative and artistic function, makes sense, right? Holistic thinking, like the bigger picture. That can be very intuitively. Spatial awareness. All of these things play a factor, so we don't want to just say that the imagination side of the brain is the only part that gets used when we are growing our intuition. We can use many parts of the brain to support our intuition. So it's just kind of something to play about and think about. And we've got a brain. And since we don't know, scientifically speaking, that, you know, where our intuition really is coming from, they suspect that it's outside of the brain, right? And there's, you know, our heart that plays a part in there, and perhaps every cell of our body, and, you know, the neuropeptides that we'll take a look at some point. All of these things have a play, and you need to know this because the world is changing very quickly, and we're getting a better handle on these things, and science is working on it. There are scientists that are working on these kinds of understandings. So this is just why I'm prefacing these first 4 classes with a lot of these kinds of things, because it will play out for us in our future, and we'll be ahead of the curve. All right, there we are with the hemispheres. Oh, I want to go into the pineal gland, because this is fascinating, the pineal gland, and how long the pineal gland has been related in, I guess I want to say in history, how long the pineal gland has been connected to the idea of the third eye. So I need to very quickly talk about chakras and what they are if we're going to discuss the pineal gland, which is part of the brain, and the idea of intuition and consciousness and perception and all of those things. So the pineal gland looks like a pine cone, they say, and it's often discussed as being found towards the center of the brain, but it's more like towards the going down and middle. So it's stuck inside there. So it's not it's not right up close here to your forehead. It kind of reaches in there. Wish I had a picture of it because I probably sound nuts. But because this isn't New Age, what we're talking about, it'll benefit us from taking a look at where some of these concepts came from. Now, chakras are energy centers found in different parts of the body and then also outside of the body. For instance, we've got chakra points here at our third eye or the crown and above. because we have more than the ones that we know are the 7 major: crown, third eye, throat, heart. But the word chakra means wheel, or chakra, depending on who you ask. And it's a spinning wheel is the idea of it. In other words, it resembles somewhat of a funnel that comes out through the front, and then it goes out the back. And the one at the crown funnels upward. And think of them as flowing vortexes of energy. And over time, based on our thinking and then our participation in the world, how we move around, behave, and our disposition and our personalities, that our chakras can change or influence as our life changes. So energy flow around us. So that's just kind of a basic thing about chakras. And I'm happy to, for those of you that are live here with me on the Zoom while this class is being taught, I'm happy to answer questions about chakras once we close down the class. Pineal gland and early references. It goes all the way back to yogis and their Sanskrit writings in different places that represent their knowledge of using the pineal gland with the third eye reference. Now, they didn't necessarily call it the pineal gland or understand that there was this small pine cone looking part of the brain that went in and to the center of where your brain matter is. So while ancient yogis didn't understand the pineal gland in the modern scientific sense that we have access to now, they seem to intuitively recognize its role in higher awareness, our levels of consciousness. The association of the pineal gland with spiritual experiences and mystical states like lucid dreaming or deep meditation has also become popular in modern times, but this was something that was done many hundreds of years ago. Let me go over some of the places where you'll find references to either the third eye or the pineal gland. So I'm going to use them kind of interchangeably. So in ancient Egypt, there was even the symbol of the Eye of Horus, which they believed to be connected to the third eye, which was thought of as protection, wisdom, and enlightenment. And Buddhism also speaks of the eye of wisdom or divine eye, which allows one to perceive things beyond the ordinary realm of sight. Okay, so the concept of the third eye, or it's also known as ajna chakra, appears in several ancient texts. So the I'm going to butcher this. I'm going to spell it. Upanishads. This was written between 800 BCE and 400 BCE and are some of the earliest texts of spiritual concepts like the third eye. So that goes back a long way, not New Age, to think about these things. Let's see, what else do we have here? The Bhagavad Gita. When I was studying yoga and becoming a yoga teacher, it was one of the required readings. And that certainly plays a factor in intuition, and divinely guided is a concept throughout the Bhagavad Gita. And so it's referenced in there, circa 400 BCE to 200 CE, where we're not sure about the original dates of the Bhagavad Gita, but still not New Age, right? And it speaks about the importance of spiritual insight and perception, which can be interpreted as aligning with the third eye. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, also a reading when I was going through my meditation teacher training. And the Yoga Sutras are very interesting. I think there's more to the Yoga Sutras than just ways of living or looking at life. I think there's more to it. It doesn't explicitly use the term third eye in the Yoga Sutras, but the text describes practices and states of consciousness that align with awakening in the Ajna chakra. So your third eye, your perception to intuition grows as your perception grows, and your willingness and or your ability to put focus and awareness even on that which you disagree with, not in a way to agree with it, but in an effort to understand and be in acceptance. Now, we shouldn't accept harm to others. It's not that. Other people's thinking or ways of life or beliefs. The tantric texts. I'm not super familiar with this one, but the Ajna chakra, which is referred to as the third eye, is a major focus here. Tantric texts and practices which evolved between the 5th and 9th centuries. So once again, not New Age, right? Delve deeply into energy centers within the body. And so now I'm feeling like I should know more about that text. The Hatha Yoga, circa around 14th century. That's another place to find references here. And some other sources, Mahabharata. And if I'm saying some of these wrong, I apologize for those of you that are more familiar with that. The Secret Doctrine of Helen Blavatsky. There will be a class that's incorporated into these down the road where I dive into historical figures in intuition and spiritual work. And so, and she will definitely be one of them. Helen Blavatsky. Fascinating. The Third Eye by Lobsang Rampa, R-A-M-P-A, from 1956. That's a little more New Age, right? The Divine Comedy by Dante. There's references, spiritually speaking, about divine energy. I did have, when I was teaching English in Reedley College, that was one of the readings that I had people read, and I had a few people take it on. And it's one of the people, students in that class, say it did change their life. It gives depth and understanding to where some of our religious concepts took hold at certain points. And so that was 1320. And the third eye is not explicitly mentioned, but the idea of spiritual awakening, vision, and ability to perceive higher realities aligns with what we interpret that way, right? So having these different works out there that have utilized the concept of the pineal gland and the third eye, there is a wealth of depth of understanding that this is something very real, and that it comes from the imagination side of our brain. Shouldn't be something that makes us think that it's untrustable, like a moving target. That the more you learn to trust it and that you widen your perception on things, that the more depth of and usefulness that it brings. Okay, so I want to bring up just really quick that the next class will incorporate an activity that is really going to be fun. It will really help you to navigate where your focused abilities are, and how you can then look at where some of your gifts are, spiritually speaking, with intuition. So I'm going to close this part of the class down with just these topics, and we have so much more, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone in the next class. All of those of you that are here with me live on Zoom, please stay on the class, but as far as it goes for YouTube, I'm going to close here, and know that you can put your comments down there in the chat box on YouTube, and I would appreciate that. Please like and follow so more people can find this. All right, guys, thank you very much, and I will end the recording.